Kevin Patullo does not need to reinvent the wheel to get the Eagles offense back on track. There's some simple suggestions I have coming up next right here on the Locked On Eagles podcast.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to this Friday edition of the show. It's presented by Mazda. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. The Eagles have a big-time matchup this Sunday against the 2-2 Denver Broncos, and although they're at 500 and the Broncos last year were only a 7 seed, I think this is a very underrated team in the NFL. From top to bottom, when you look at the strengths of this football team on both sides of the ball, it makes up a very dangerous, underrated football team. I said it on Crossover Thursday. They're kind of like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the AFC, where everybody's in agreement that they're a playoff contender, but I don't think people fully understand the ceiling of this football team. They are elite in the trenches on the offensive and defensive line. The Eagles should be favorites at home as the one of 2 undefeated teams left in the NFL, but this might be one of the few games of the past decade, honestly, where you could say the Eagles might be at a disadvantage in the trenches, and they have a really good elite play caller in Sean Payton. Bo Nix is a good, potentially, eventually great quarterback. He's not there yet, but I think he could kind of be like that Baker Mayfield of quarterbacks where quietly becomes a star and nobody noticed. I feel like that's kind of the trajectory that Bo Nix's career is on. And you look at, they have an elite cornerback in Pat Surtain, an underrated receiver in Cortland Sutton, a great pass rush, the number 1 pass rush right now in the NFL. So this is a tough challenge for the Eagles. If they can get this win as well and get to 5-0, I know they haven't been doing it in style, especially on the offensive side of the football, but then they would have gone through beating a division rival in the Dallas Cowboys, the team that you beat in the Super Bowl last year in Kansas City, 2 of the best teams in the NFC in LA, in Tampa Bay, and then a very underrated contender in the AFC in the Denver Broncos. So getting this win would be massive for the Eagles. If they're going to do it, though, because of how good the Eagles, or I should say the Broncos are up front with their pass rush, and also in the secondary with Pat Surtain likely shadowing A.J. Brown, they have to be so much more efficient and consistent on the offensive side of the football. Obviously, still being elite in the red zone this year. They've been perfect in the red zone, 11 for 11. They've been a top 10 football team on third downs. They're not turning the ball over. These are key areas that the offense is thriving that's allowing for them to win games. But you can't be 32nd in the league in 3-and-out drives. You can't be getting outgained every single week to consistently win. And if the Eagles are going to turn this thing around and Kevin Patullo is going to contribute to that, I don't really think he has to reinvent the wheel this Sunday against Denver. There's just some simple things that he could add to the offense that I think every team in the NFL does to assist their personnel to make things easier. Things that coaches have been doing since, the 1990s and honestly the 1980s that can actually be effective that the Eagles simply right now are just not doing. And I know the Eagles personnel is so elite that, again, coordinators feel like they probably don't have to do much. And with Jalen Hurts' I don't want to say limitations, but it's not a coincidence that each play caller Jalen Hurts has had similar issues with their passing concepts. With that all being said, there are still things Patullo can do to help. And it's not to be, he doesn't have to become Sean McVay. He doesn't have to become Kyle Shanahan. There are things that, like I said, everybody does to make things easier on their personnel. Number 1, play action. Playing more under center. Motion. The use of motion and misdirection. These are very simple concepts that, again, aren't creating a brand new offense that nobody's ever seen before. Most iterations of offensive schemes across the National Football League, every defense has seen, so much of this league's success is predicated on execution. But play action under center, even when teams are used to it, and even if you don't have an established rushing attack, it tends to work. Last year in the middle of the season when the passing game was I don't want to say sputtering, but it was kind of up and down. It had its peaks and valleys, like some great games against Dallas and Jacksonville and Cincinnati, but low points against Washington, Baltimore, Carolina. When Kellen Moore would dial up under center play action, get Jalen Hurts on the move, Jalen is a vastly improved passer on the run than he was early on in his career, even throwing across his body going to the left. Like, we even saw that last week, a great completion to Devontae Smith rolling to his left over the middle of the field. They've had success in that way. Pretty much every team has success using under center play action, especially when you have a Saquon Barkley and a really good offensive line that's looking to bounce back, but they're still vastly ahead of the majority of the league in talent in the trenches. So something like that, I think, can really get them back on track this week against the Denver Broncos. And I actually pulled up a stat. So the Eagles, when it comes to play action, they're just not using it. Last year, the Eagles had a 27% play action rate, which isn't really that high. This year, it's fallen even worse, even lower, to just 19%. That's the fourth lowest, 28th in the NFL. And it's not like you need certain kinds of personnel to use play action. It's not like it's too much for Jalen Hurts to handle or the offensive line. You would think at times the Eagles aren't doing things because they think they don't have the personnel to do it. And that's simply incorrect. Like motion as well. There's been some times Kevin Patullo has used motion. Like in the red zone, he's used it, and it's really worked. There's been times they use it even like in the screen game to Devontae Smith against the Chiefs and allowed for an explosive play, but they're just not using it. Right now, the Eagles use motion on 44% of their dropbacks. That's the sixth lowest in the NFL. So it's 26th in all of football. These are very simple things that, again, yes, with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, an elite offensive line, you don't have to get super complex on offense, but these little things can help these elite players do even more damage. And I don't understand why Patullo's not doing it, especially considering it doesn't feel like he has a lot of other tricks up his sleeve. Like, why aren't you doing these basic things that all play callers do to help out your personnel? So I want to see that more against the Denver Broncos to help this team bounce back. I really think it helped the Eagles find consistency with Kellen Moore calling plays last year. I feel like this year when they've done it, it has worked. When you make it even harder on a defense when a defense can predict what you're doing, it allows them to even stop a team as talented as the Eagles offense. If you make a talented offense like this now unpredictable as well, or there's some sort of misdirection, that makes it really hard to guard this football team. And the Eagles they're not doing that. Like, why are we not using motion and misdirection in the backfield when you have such an elite dynamic backfield with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley? I want to see more like counter RPOs where they bring a receiver in motion, bring him into the backfield, and then, he rolls to his right, and then Jalen Hurts does some read option, and he rolls to his left, and then you have like an RPO style play. Whereas like the triple option kind of designs that I feel like the Carolina Panthers used a lot in the Cam Newton days back in 2015 when he won MVP, or the Eagles even used with Shane Steichen. I feel like Russell Wilson, the Seahawks, had a lot of these dynamics. I feel like the Eagles need to kind of get back in the lab and watch some film on what teams have done in the past to fully utilize mobile quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts that might have more of a limited skill set as a passer, comparatively speaking, but still have an elite physical skill set. And if you play into those strengths, he can really thrive. I feel like the Eagles right now are not doing that. Maybe it's by design to keep him healthy throughout the season, but the RPOs, the read option, they're not there. The motion's not there. Play action. I think the Eagles are so talented that the offense is just going to bounce back this year by default. I just think it's impossible for this team to be playing as bad as they are on offense for a 17-game season. But Patullo can do some things that aren't that difficult, that don't need to require him to become an Andy Reid style of play caller to help this football team out. And I hope that they can do that against the Denver Broncos. Even something like no huddle, like pushing the tempo. Jordan Mailata suggested it this week that using tempo is something like breaking the huddle faster so they can diagnose what the defense is doing pre-snap. That can help as well. So I'm going to be really watching this offense closely. It is not an easy matchup against the Denver Broncos, who have the number one pass rush in football right now and the number one corner in the NFL, although Quinyon Mitchell's quietly giving him a run for his money. Not quietly, actually. Q was a demon on Sunday in Tampa Bay. But it's a tough matchup, so you need your play caller to help out. So this is a big, big game for Kevin Patullo. On the defensive side of the football, the Eagles need to get to Bo Nix. His mobility is very underrated across the NFL when you compare it to other quarterbacks. Is there a concern about this Eagles pass rush right now getting to mobile quarterbacks like Bo Nix? I'm not as concerned as other people, and I'll tell you why coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that just make the neighborhood the neighborhood. There are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Your favorite cheesesteak spot in Philadelphia, your favorite dive bar to watch the Eagles game on Sundays, or at this point, Thursdays, Mondays, the Eagles play. Even on Friday nights, it's all over the place. You name it, local spots are what keep the community going. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. And guys, today's show is also sponsored by Mazda. Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward was Quinyon Mitchell's pass breakup on Emeka Egbuka in the right corner of the end zone when it was only a one-score game in the fourth quarter. Quinyon was on an island, no safety help, press man coverage against the offensive rookie of the year favorite, at least through the first month of the season. Q was in his hip pocket, shoulders square, didn't release his hips too soon. The elite mirroring of Egbuka's route, and then to make a play on the football to get the force and completion was textbook teach tape CB1 elite level stuff. And it was like the play that helped the Eagles win that football game on Sunday in Tampa Bay. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight of Quinyon Mitchell, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thanks for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Eagles-Broncos this Sunday, a big-time matchup. And if the Eagles can get this win, they could go on a 2024-like run where I think this team could win 7+ games. Like a win streak that you saw in 2017, 2022, 2024, because after this Denver game, they play the Giants twice, and they play the Minnesota Vikings in the month of October. And while those are some pretty good defensive fronts, and of course Minnesota has some offensive talent, and I like Jackson Dart, this is definitely the quote-unquote easier part of the Eagles' schedule. So if they can, this is the big test against Denver. If they can get this win at home and the offense can bounce back and play more consistent and the defense can continue to do what it does, like people keep saying that a 2023 collapse could happen. I think it's much more likely this year that they have a 2024 like nuclear run in them because the defense is not dropping off like 2023. And as I said in segment 1, I just refuse to believe an offense that has so much prime talent, star loaded talent on this unit is going to be this bad for this long. Like I just don't believe it. And the fact that they've been this bad on offense and have still been able to beat the Chiefs and the Rams and the Bucks, I mean, like that should put the league on notice that, yeah, this is scary. They're winning these games. They're undefeated, and they're having those problems. Imagine what's going to happen when A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, inevitably, and it's inevitable, when they figure it out. So I'm still feeling very optimistic and confident about this football team, and if they can get this win against Denver, I think they're going to go on a run. Until it gets a little bit tougher probably at the end of November and in December as well. But if they win this game against Denver, they could go undefeated in October, and then boom, you're 8-0 to start the year, and that looks really good for your hopes of getting the number 1 seed in the NFC. If they want to win this game on defense, I do think it's a similar strategy to what they did with Baker Mayfield last week, and they consistently got to Baker Mayfield. But Baker has like sneaky athleticism, and I hate using that word for quarterbacks like Baker. If you know, you know. But he, unlike Bo Nix, who's just athletic, like he's just mobile. It's not sneaky. I think it's underrated, but Bo Nix is just a great runner. He's been since Auburn and Oregon. Like, this is just what Bo Nix does well. Baker Mayfield, though, quietly has been improving his running year after year. And I think the Eagles did a pretty good job of getting to Baker, but he was able to extend plays and not allow the Eagles' pressure to turn into sacks. If they want to beat the Denver Broncos this week, I feel like they need to have that consistent pass rush. Keep Bo Nix inside the pocket because he's really good at throwing on the run, especially throwing with his body, going to the right side. But it's not just like keeping him inside the pocket and forcing him to be a pocket passer, but it's turning those pressures into sacks. And I know there's been some concern about the Eagles' pass rush so far this year because they don't have a lot of sacks. I think finishing, again, is a problem for this defensive front. But pressure, to me, like, I'm not concerned. People are like, do they need to add another edge rusher? Like, I don't believe that. I think they need to get Nolan Smith healthy for the stretch run. But I think Zadarius Smith and Josh Uche have been really good number 3 and 4 edge rusher rotational players behind Jalek Smith and when Nolan Smith was healthy. And I think as a 2 and 3 for about a month, like, they should be okay. And with the way the Eagles are blitzing right now and how elite Zach Bond has been at getting to the quarterback and Jahad Campbell as well, and now Nakobe Dean potentially being activated within the next few weeks, you can add him to that fold as well. I don't know. I'm not really concerned about the Eagles' pass rush. And their defensive tackles have been consistently getting there. Jalen Carter, Moro Ijoma leads the team in sacks. Jordan Davis has been having a breakout year, as we've talked about on the show, and he's very developed as a pass rusher this year. So I don't know. Like, yeah, they need to produce more sacks and get these guys to the ground. I think that's been an issue against Dallas. It was an issue against Kansas City. I mean, really all 4 games. But, I mean, the Eagles' pass rush last week finished with a 40.9% pressure rate against Baker Mayfield, which was the highest since early last season. So they had a really good game against Tampa. Zach Bond, Moro Ijoma each had 5 pressures. Zadarius Smith and Josh Uche each had 4. And Jalen Carter had 3. So I think that's the key against the Denver Broncos offense is getting to Bo Nix and getting him down on the ground, not letting him extend plays because that's when he does his most damage. That's when athletes like Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin, when a play breaks down, can use their speed to turn nothing plays into explosive plays. But I don't know, like people saying like they have to go out there and trade for a pass rusher. Would I hate if they went out there and got Trey Hendrickson right now? Like, no, absolutely not. And I'm starting to think like that kind of rental move now with the way the Bengals situation is currently at 2-2, and they're going to keep losing games without Joe Burrow. It is a possibility. I wouldn't say no to it, but Nolan Smith's going to get healthy. I think it's a matter of time before Jalek Hunt starts to get these sacks and continues to improve and has that breakout. Like, I believe in Jalek Hunt a lot still. And Zadarius Smith and Josh Uche have proven to me, like, they can be who you were hoping, Brandon Graham and Bryce Huff were behind Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith last year. Like, who Jalek Hunt was at the end of last year as that third guy and who BG was. Zadarius Smith and Josh Uche have proved they can be that, if not better. So I'm not concerned about it. It's definitely a key against Denver, and they got to turn these pressures into sacks, but the pressures are there. So I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree, but I'm not as concerned right now about the Eagles' pass rush as others, and it's probably a lot of it has to do with, too, the way they're getting pressures in other ways. They're getting to the quarterback on the interior with their defensive tackles and their linebackers, too, and that's not something we're used to in Philadelphia with the way you get pressure. That's not normally what Vic Fangio does, but Vic Fangio is a very good coordinator at molding his scheme to the strength of his personnel, and he knows right now that blitzing and using these linebackers to get to the quarterback, that's like the strength of this team right now until Nolan Smith gets back. So that's a big thing to watch because Bo Nix he's more mobile than Baker Mayfield. I think this is one of the more explosive players that you'll play this year at the quarterback position, and while he's a pretty accurate quarterback inside the pocket, what he does best is when he gets outside, makes plays outside of structure, and does some damage in that way. So I'll be watching that closely, but I'm not as concerned about the Eagles' pass rush as others are. All right, guys, we'll wrap up this edition of Locked On Eagles. Coming up next, LOE3 presented by FanDuel. Coming your way. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, guys, time to wrap up this Friday edition of Locked On Eagles with LOE3 presented by FanDuel. 3-player props to take for Eagles-Broncos. And I apologize. I went 0-3 again this week. I totally understand if you're going to fade these picks. I would too. If that helps you win some money this week, totally understand it. I know I've had a winning record since 2021 when we started this segment. For the last 4 seasons, I've had a winning record with LOE3, but this year it's not working. And it's because of the offense. Like, the offense is terrible, and I have not been doing defensive bets, so AJ Brown bets aren't working. Saquon Barkley bets aren't working. Devontae Smith bets aren't working. Nothing's working. Jalen Hurts, I'm not going to just tell you to do the anytime rushing touchdown for Jalen Hurts every single week. So I don't know what you want me to do, but I promise you we're going to get back on track here. The minute the Eagles offense gets back on track, we're going to get back on track. So I'm really hoping it's a tough matchup against Denver, the number 1 pass rush in football. Pat Surtain's on that football team. It's a good unit, but I'm really just expecting at this point with how bad it's been that the Eagles get back on track this week on offense. And we've seen the building blocks. We saw the first half against Tampa Bay. We saw the second half against LA. We know it's still there with this football team. They just have to put it together for, I don't even want to say 4 quarters, but can we get 3? Like, let's get 3 quarters in against Denver where this offense is really putting up points, and I could start to get back in the win column for you, because right now I'm 8 games under 500. I'm 2-10 on the year. But I'm really hoping that things turn around in the month of October. So let's start this off. I'm going to stick with what's gotten me here over the last 5 years, and I'm going to play some bets that normally win me money. Against the Denver Broncos, I am expecting Pat Surtain to shadow A.J. Brown. I think that is going to be a reality. So Riley Moss against Devontae Smith, I think, is a mismatch, and that's a big advantage for Devontae. His over-under right now at receiving yards is 46.5. I know there's going to be an emphasis to get A.J. Brown involved, and he's going to lead this team in targets. The passing game is going to go through number 11. He's going to be the first read of this football game. But Surtain is the best cornerback in the NFL. And I'm not saying that A.J. Brown's not going to do anything, but I don't think he's going to have like a 150-yard performance, or the second half against L.A. I don't think he's going to do that unless Surtain only does stay on one side of the football field. But I do believe he will shadow Brown for the majority of this game. So Devontae, I think, can take advantage of his mismatch against Riley Moss, and then also when he's playing in the slot. His over-under is at 46.5 receiving yards. Devontae's only hit that once this year. And I've taken a couple Devontae bets. I've hit one and have lost like 3 or 4, I think, at this point. But I'm going to take the over on that. I'm going to take the over on 46.5 receiving yards. I think while, yes, getting A.J. Brown more involved is crucial, I think just getting the passing game on track is crucial. And Smitty is just as good at times as A.J. Brown. And I think he needs to get a consistent role too, because while he's not going to talk and react the way Brown does about not getting the ball, you know he's equally as frustrated. So I think there's as much emphasis on getting Smitty involved and getting him going as there is A.J. Brown. In his line right now, A.J. Brown's at 58.5 receiving yards, which I'm comfortable taking the over there too, but I'll take the over on Devontae for 46.5. And then I will take an A.J. Brown bet. I'm going to take the over on receptions. Not yardage, but I'm going to go the over on receptions because I do think, and I'm not going to parlay it like last week. Let's just get some wins here this week. Let's win you some money. I do think they're going to add an emphasis to get A.J. Brown the ball quicker, easier looks. They're going to scheme things, I think, specifically for Brown. His over-under is at 4.5 receptions right now in FanDuel. I'm going to take the over on that. So I'm going to take the over on Devontae Smith's 46.5 receiving yards. I'll take the over on 4.5 receptions for A.J. Brown. And then let's do it. Let's get a win. I'm going to take I do think that Denver might play a lot of man coverage. It could allow for corners, safeties, linebackers have their back turned to Jalen Hurts. The Broncos pass rush likely will get there at times. Jalen's going to have to escape outside the pocket. I think his rushing is going to be a big influence in this game. Give me the anytime Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown. I know sometimes it's like kind of the coward's draw of FanDuel bets. It's running the ball on 3rd and 11. But we just got to get a positive play here, right? At 2-10, we just got to get something going. So I'm going to take the anytime Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown bet. Watch this be the week it doesn't happen. Although it didn't happen last week. So it's rare it doesn't happen in a game. It didn't happen last week, I think. So based on that, we'll get back to him scoring in the red zone with his legs this week. Over on 46.5 receiving yards for Devontae Smith, and then over 4.5 receptions for A.J. Brown. Nothing crazy. Let's get some wins. Let's chop this tree down slowly. Let's get to 3-0. Then at this point, we'll be at 5-10 on the year. I'm banking on it. The Eagles' offense has been letting us down big time. I'm going to blame them. It's not me. It's them, right? And people say it's not you. It's me. No, it's not me. It's you, the Eagles' offense. We'll see what happens. Eagles-Broncos this Sunday at 1 o'clock. We'll have my 30-minute postgame show following the game, and then our 1-hour-long squad postcast show as well with Jason Martias, myself, and Harry Mays. So subscribe to Locked On Eagles on YouTube and all audio podcast platforms. Until then, though, thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Make sure your second listen is the Locked On NFL podcast. The NFL season's finally here. For your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast with Tyler, the Madman Rowland, giving you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, thanks so much for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.